Everyone, I'm Yvette Lloyd, host of Life Her podcast. We have an amazing guest here today, and she is a Georgetown law graduate, business attorney, and founder of Legacy Legal Consulting Firm. She is the powerhouse behind Build a Legit Business and also Legal Proof Your Business Membership, where she helps women CEOs and small business owners protect their businesses and lasting legacies. Known as the legal protection of strategists, and also Shayla is a passionate about making legal education accessible, empowerment of entrepreneurs, and to avoid costly mistakes and turning legal knowledge into generational wealth. Everyone, I would like to welcome you, Chayla Jackson. Hey, Shayla.
Hey. So look, I gotta kick it off with, we go through rebranding, and I had to
Okay.
rebrand. Oh, I had to rebrand. And so this year,
Really?
actually, yeah, I felt like God was like, we got to move this in a different direction. And so, build a legit business no more. I
Okay.
shut that down. I rebranded the membership, and so now it's all under armed and legally dangerous.
Oh.
Armed and legally dangerous, and it's for kingdom CEOs. And so, yeah, I just wanted to mention that because, we had to transition, as God said, you're the purpose police, and we had to protect His purpose in business. So, build a legit biz went bye bye, but armed and legally dangerous is here.
Oh my god, that is amazing. So speaking of rebranding then,
Mhm.
with you rebranding and a lot of people want to rebrand but they find themselves afraid to. What are some of the legally things that they can do to switch their business from one name to another?
So I'm a trademark attorney, and we actually in the membership, the Armed and Legally Dangerous membership, just finished our brand protection series, actually.
Mm.
And one of the things when you're thinking about rebranding, you have to think about trademarks. And so one of the reasons why I rebranded Build a Legit Biz and the Legal Proof Your Business membership was because there I couldn't protect it. It was too other people had similar names in the market, and I wanted something that would stand out. And so the first thing that you want to really focus on is making sure that you legally clear the name, because you don't want to build a brand that you cannot protect or enforce. Because when people are searching, you don't want them looking at someone else when you want them coming into your business. So the first thing you want to do is you want to find out the legal answer. Can I use that name? Not just can I
Mhm.
trademark it, but can I legally use it, so that you're not building something that, let's say, a year, 2 years down the road, someone hits you with a cease and desist letter saying you have to rebrand again. So that's the first thing that you want to do. Now, if you are changing your business name, which is different than a brand. So my business name didn't change, my brand name changed. And
Gotcha.
so if you're going to change the business name, then legally you want to make sure you file that paperwork with the Secretary of State office. Now, here's the thing. You can also just file a DBA, which is a trade name. So if you're doing business under your brand name, rather than change the whole business name, just file a DBA. So your business name remains the same, but you can legally hold yourself out as that business name. And then, of course, if you're going to rebrand, look, y'all, it's a headache to rebrand. Okay.
You ain't lying.
So if you're going to rebrand legally, you want to make sure you go through all of your legal paperwork. If the rebrand is going to be on a website, you want to look at your website privacy policy, terms and conditions, and make sure all of the language goes smoothly over to the new brand. And of course, this is just the business side of it, but do a post, introduce the new brand. We have a new name because people may not know. And if you have clients, ongoing clients, then you want to let them know, hey, we have a new name. Now, for me, I shift domain names as well. And many people do that when they rebrand, they get a new domain name. Well, if people are still going to be looking for the old domain or emailing it, then you want to put like an automated response to let them know we've rebranded, here's the new address, because you don't want to shut that domain name and people are looking for it and now they can't find you, or you had clients and they're emailing the old email and now you're missing out on emails, because that's where we get into breach and contract territory and you don't want that.
Mhm.
So those are some legal things you can do and things to consider when you're thinking about rebranding.
Wow. So I'm going to basically take it back from you actually shifting over from one name to another. So can you take us back to the moment during the pandemic when you realized the legal industry and you needed to shift and spark back the birth of when you did start build a legit business and legal legacy legal?
Absolutely. At that time, I mean, I had already graduated law school, but I was sitting here thinking, okay, what can I do in my business? I was coaching at the time, and I had read this article about how many women, Black women specifically, were starting businesses. And I asked this question: how can I position myself in the market uniquely where there's not that many competition? And so when I thought about the fact that I'm an attorney, but I also have teaching experience. So I actually taught law in two DC high school schools.
Wow.
And I also spent 1 year at Georgetown Law as a clinical teaching fellow, teaching the law students how to teach law. So with that background, I said, you know what? Why don't we teach law to those who are starting businesses? And that's how Build a Legit Biz got started. It started from a book first. So I wrote a book called Build a Legit Business. And then from there, I started building courses, I started building workshops and just resources. And that became the brand Build a Legit Biz.
Wow. So, with you making a powerful pivot from criminal defense to business law, what was that transition like? What was the personal and or professional revelations to guiding you?
I think so. I'm gonna give you the real scoop, right?
Okay.
So, my first spring break of law school, I actually interned at the public defender's office in Louisiana, in New Orleans. And so down in New Orleans, I had to go into their jail to visit one of the clients for my attorney that I was volunteering for. Now, y'all, this is my first year of law school. I'm not an attorney at this point. I'm a student. Okay. This is spring break volunteering. And I'll never forget the moment I walked through the jail and they closed these large bars behind me. And I said, time out. I can't get out because you
Ooh.
have to check your cell phone into a locker. And I said, not too many people know I'm down here in New Orleans. I'm volunteering. If they decide to keep me, I can't get out. Okay.
Wee.
So I talked to the client, and she's breaking down in tears. And I'm like, I feel for you. And so I leave. Now, I have my first court experience in New Orleans. I have never seen people be actually like chained up like slaves coming into the courthouse in person.
Wow.
And so I've seen people in handcuffs in DC, but not where it looks like slavery, like legit
Mm.
slaves. And so that whole experience for me, this is my first year in law school, became, I believe, how if you try to crack glass, like it starts as
Mhm.
a fracture. It started as the fracture of, I don't know if I have the mental fortitude to do this day in and day out and see the injustices. I don't know. And so by the time I graduated law school, many people didn't know that I was struggling with depression.
Wow.
And so my last year of law school, I was actually representing juveniles in DC Superior Court. And I'm going to court representing them, but I'm standing on Massachusetts Avenue in DC, right down by Union Station, and I'm having suicidal thoughts.
Wow. Sorry
And
to hear
so
that.
when I graduated, I was like, I don't know if I can continue to do something where my mental health is at risk, where I'm having suicidal thoughts. And so I always had a love for business. I had a photography business before law school. When I was in college, a group of us, we started a party promotion. We threw parties through business LLC. And so I said, you know what? Let's shift to business law. And what I love teaching. And so when I started teaching, I was like, I could do this. Let's stay here for a moment. But in my heart of hearts, I always want to go back to doing
Mm.
criminal defense at some level, not full blown, but at some level, I
Right.
want to go back.
Wow. That is a serious story. It's so crazy. It kind of reminded me of myself when I was going into I wanted to be a brain surgeon, so I started off in nursing school. And when I experienced being on a paramedic truck and a life and death situation happened, I was like, So I actually understand what you saying as far as like just switching over like that. And I'm so happy that you noticed it beforehand before you actually got into it. And just protecting your mental health and being aware, that's just so important.
Yeah. And so this I was doing the work, but I hadn't signed the contract to be, full blown. But
Right.
I had a caseload since my first summer after my first year of law school, and so I had my own clients, and I'll never forget. It still makes me laugh. It's been over 10 years since that happened. But one of my
Mm.
clients, again, I'm a law student. Y'all. I'm a law student. It's not an attorney. I'm a law student. One of my clients out in Oakland, California, I'll never forget. He got in trouble in school. So we talk about the school to prison pipeline, right?
Mhm.
Real life. He got in trouble in school. They expelled him, but he also had a bench warrant and a probation violation on the juvenile court side. So we had to deal with the school side first. So I was representing him in his school expulsion hearing. We got that resolved, but then we had to deal with the bench warrant. I'll never forget him riding in the car with me and him telling me about the shootout he had.
Ooh.
I'm taking him home. And he's saying, that's the car over there. And he said, why are you speeding up? And I was like, I didn't even realize I was speeding through the neighborhood. And so, you when we talk about like boots on the ground, people on the front lines of doing the work, the
Mhm.
trauma is not just the system. Like people talk about it in theory, but there's
Mhm.
also some things that take place with, was it the transference of trauma, what we deal with our clients, the unfairness of the system. I'm talking about kids getting cases for things I did as a child and just got a warning, move on.
Right.
But then there are things that you don't see in the courtroom, such as judges being disrespectful. I've had people just treat me as if I was a parent, not even realizing that no, I'm a part of the legal team.
Right.
And so you deal with many things and on different areas, and including racism of Black people in the legal profession. So it really took its toll. And so again, my mental health is definitely better on
That's
the
good.
trademark and business law side. But I know that there's going to come a time where I'm going to want to go back because of the impact that
Yeah.
I can make.
Wow. So you're incredibly passionate about the legal education. I've noticed during our conversation. Why is legal literacy such a blind spot for entrepreneurs, especially women and people of color?
So it's such a blind spot because I think it's human nature for us to try to avoid things that we think are complicated or that we don't think we'll understand. And so we shy away from it. The other part is we don't have the full revelation of why it's so important. And so those who come from a different background, those who have money, they can hire attorneys to do everything for them, or they come with some knowledge or training experience background. But for those of color, those that didn't have access to an attorney, didn't have access to knowledge, what we don't know is that law touches every fabric, every part of your business. There's
Yeah.
a law for every part. You want to talk about marketing? There's laws for that. You want to talk about sales? There's laws for that. You want to talk about your website? Laws for that. And I'm so passionate about it because what you don't know actually can hurt you.
Mm.
And that's just even from should I set my business up in Delaware versus should I incorporate in my state? Or as simple as contracts, just not understanding contracts. And one mistake can literally put you on the hook for thousands of dollars. But if you had the knowledge, if you
Mm,
knew, right? Like, what was it? The Bible says, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. If you knew, you could be strategically positioned to be able to avoid all of the mistakes, but you got to know it first.
yeah,
When you know better, you have the potential to do better.
that's true. That is so true. So you've also said, um, if you want to own it, put a contract on it. So can you break that down for us in a real world of example of listeners can relate to?
Absolutely. Okay. So, when we talk about business and assets and what we're creating, many of us we don't have the artistic stretch to be doing things in our business. Okay, I remember years ago when I first started, I was trying to design a logo for something, and baby, it was trash. I was on the couch
Ooh.
crying because I was like, "This not looking good. I can't." it just it was looking trash. Okay.
Aw.
Now, look, many of us know we play around in Canva a little bit longer, our design skills get
Right,
better,
right.
but it was looking trash. And so many of us will hire someone to design something for us, right? Design my logo, design this flyer, or we'll hire a photographer, take my brand photos. Well, here's the thing that we don't understand when we pay someone to do that, that they, under copyright law, are the copyright owner.
Mhm.
Not us, just because you pay for it, they are. And the only way that you get ownership, because if you have ownership, then you have the potential to leverage that for more money. So the only way you get ownership is if you put a contract on it. And so your contract has to have the language to shift those rights, the copyrights from the original creator to your business or to you, whoever you want to own it. Now, here's why that's important. Because if you don't have a contract in place, and now you want to do something, let's say you have a logo or a logo that you want to begin using, and let's say you want to have an affiliate program or a franchise, you want to use that same logo. Well, you don't have the original copyrights. So now
Mm.
we got a legal conundrum here. But copyrights are a asset. It's intellectual property, meaning assets can be passed on. So if that original designer, let's say they die, well, how do you get the rights? You got to go through their
Mm.
estate now. You got to go through their heirs. And by going through them, now we don't know if you're going to have to pay more money because you probably already beefed up the value of that asset, but
Mhm.
you didn't get the ownership rights. And so that's a real life example is if you want to own your copyrights, you want to own the works people create for you, put a contract in place. No contract, no ownership. And
Mm.
so this is why you need to have a contract, but you need to understand contracts as well to be able to do it the right way.
That's true, because that verbiage is so important. So important. So can you walk us through the common legal mistakes small business owners make and how your legal proof membership helps them avoid these costly errors?
Sure. So I see several mistakes, especially in my legal practice. But for Kingdom CEOs, so my membership, the Armed and Legally Dangerous membership, and the community is for Kingdom CEOs. And so for them, common mistakes I've seen recently in my practice is DIY trademark applications.
Mm.
DIY trademark applications. And look, many of us in this economy, we're trying to save a buck.
Yeah.
But there are some things, again, when you don't know what you don't know. I have seen several business owners make the mistake of trying to file their trademark application on their own. And now you're out of $350. because you made some simple mistakes. So some of those mistakes could be you didn't do a proper search to make sure that you have the rights to that name, or to identify potential roadblocks to your application. Other things, you just filed it incorrectly. And I see many make the mistake of not responding to an office action. So because they didn't respond, now their application has been abandoned, meaning you got to start all over. So you're out money. You just out money.
Yeah.
Just out. Now, the reason why I started with the trademark mistake is because even if you don't apply for a trademark, you not searching your business name or brand name before you launch is also another mistake. And so a couple of years ago, Rap Snacks. Now I've never had the chips. I just never felt led to eat the chips. But Rap Snacks, they had a chip they were launching with Nicki Minaj called Barbecue.
Yeah, I remember that.
And because Barbie is a trademark of Mattel, they got hit with a trademark infringement lawsuit.
Wow, okay.
Now, now because of that, they had to rebrand. So the original name, they had to pull all of that off the shelf, and they rebranded as barbecuing.
Mm.
So think about that. So they may have the money to do that, but for many small businesses, you don't have the money that you put into development of your packaging, your marketing, all the things that you invested in to now have to start over from scratch.
Mm.
So that's another mistake. Another mistake that I see business owners make is putting their personal name at the top of a business contract.
Oh,
So when you have an LLC, a corporation, you have incorporated with the state, meaning, and here's how I teach this. Think about birth, right? So when moms they have, they're pregnant, them and the baby are one, right? Something happens to the mom, something can happen to that baby. That's like a sole proprietorship. There's no separation between you and the business. But when that baby is born, that baby becomes its own legal person. And it gets what? A birth certificate, and it gets a social security number, right?
right.
The same thing for your business. When you file your LLC, for your LLC or corporation, it gets what? A certificate of
Certificate.
incorporation. And then you go to the IRS and you get what? A EIN number. That means that your business legally is a legal person in the eyes of the law. So when you have a business contract, if you put your personal name, your LLC corporation doesn't protect you. You now on the hook. So if you have a 50K contract and your personal name's at the top and there's a breach, you're on the hook for 50K, not the
Mhm.
business. But if
Yeah.
the business was at the top, now that liability protection, as long as you have not uh, violated the rules of business,
Mm.
now your LLC or your corporation protects you because of that separation. So those are some mistakes. Another mistake I see is business owners trying to hire, and they end up trying to classify an employee as a contractor.
No. Okay.
And they think, oh, if I just call you a contractor in the contract, that makes you a contractor. And the reality is that's not what makes a contractor a contractor. The law says what a contractor is. And so I've seen this mistake, and it's costly because if that employee files anything, now you owe back wages. You now have to deal with penalties. You may have to deal with a fine because you didn't have workers' compensation insurance. So it can be costly, especially if you're paying someone under the table and you're trying to go legit. So those are some mistakes, but I think the biggest one is ignoring the law. Just ignoring the law, refusing to learn, or just not knowing where to go to learn about the legal side of business. Because, especially for Kingdom CEOs, when God gives you that business, He requires you to be a good steward. And if you're
Yeah.
not going to be a good steward, that good stewardship is you understanding the law, right? Submit to governing
Yes.
authorities. So if you're not going to know the law, chances are you're not submitting to governing authorities. And if your foundation is not good, how can God increase you and take you to the next level when you don't have your house in order? And your house in order starts with the legal foundation and the legal pieces of your business. Do you have your contracts in place? Do you have your LLC in order? Do you have a business bank account? Are you keeping things separate? All of that is a part of the legal foundation. And then are you staying on top of the law? July 1st, there's a law in Maryland that just changed because that's one place where I'm licensed. And now
Mhm.
I got to go change my contract. Why? Because the law changed. So you have to stay on top of things.
Yeah, you do. Wow. That's a lot, and it's so crazy because a lot of people need this information cuz we just want to start a business and a lot of people be passionate about it and not understanding everything when it comes to it. So, could you explain to everyone like what's the difference between the trademark and simply registering a business name, and how does it impact the ownership long term?
So okay, so the difference between the business name and a trademark is one, just because you register the business name doesn't mean you have a trademark.
Mm.
And so a trademark is a mark that is used in business. So one, you got to be in business, right? There's many people who set up an LLC and you're not in business. Okay, you got to be in business. So it's a mark that's used in business on a product or service, but it acts as a source identifier. So, for example, there are many people who have a business, but you operate under a different brand name. And so the brand, right, what you name the product, what you name the service, whether it's a signature conference, whether it is a signature course you do, that becomes the trademark. Now, if your business is being put out in the forefront, then your business can be the trademark as well.
Mm.
And so a trademark is not based on registration. That's what many people, it's not based on registration. It's based on you using it and using it consistently and continuously. So it's possible for your business name to be a trademark, but trademarks are not a trademark just because you brand it. They have to actually qualify for trademark protection, meaning that it has to be distinct, it has to stand out, and it can't be similar and confusing with another mark. So, for example, when I started Build a Legit Biz, there were people who had build a business, build legit, meaning that it was possible for someone to confuse my brand with someone else. Same thing with legal proof your business. Someone else had legal proof my business. So there was something already out there that was similar, meaning that I would not have had trademark rights in that name. It didn't matter if that was the business name. There was no trademark protection. But when I rebranded to Armed and Legally Dangerous, now I had a trademark.
Gotcha.
And the USPTO seems to agree with that as well. So, you're registering your business name is nothing compared to trademark. Now, the impact on that in terms of ownership in the long term is understanding that one, it really doesn't change ownership at all. So your business name, when you register your business, one, you don't necessarily own the business. You own your percentage of the stake in the business. So for those who have a partnership, whatever your percentage in the partnership in the business, that's what you own. But when it comes to the ownership structure of the business, you can always change the business name. It doesn't change the ownership.
Gotcha.
Now, who you put as the owner of the trademark, because that's one of the mistakes I see with DIY filers, that can have long term impact. Because if you put the wrong owner, it can actually end up canceling your registration if somebody finds out.
Mm. So, what's been your best strategy for client growth, like such as referrals, speaking gigs, digital education? Which avenue helps you scale most effectively?
So within Legacy Legal and Consulting Firm, my law firm, referrals and actually speaking is where I get most of my clients and has helped me grow. As we know, if nobody knows who you are, they can't see you, can't find you, how do you grow? And so, in speaking and in teaching, it gives prospective clients the opportunity to get to know the woman behind the law firm, who they'll actually be working with. So they get to know who I am. They get to see and learn about my values and how I treat them, and make it personal, because many people have this fear of attorneys. And so I get to dispel some of their myths and some of their misconceptions about what it means to work with an attorney, and then what it means to work with me within Legacy Legal, and then bring them on in as a client on board. And so for referrals, it's that built-in trust, because they're usually trusting the person that referred them. But when people don't know you, one of the ways that I build trust is hosting a recurring webinar I do called Beyond TM, Protecting Your Brand with Trademarks. And so in the last one I did, they had me singing the theme song to Law and Order because my audio went out. And so they get a chance to see the humanist part of me. And I've seen that that is what works to consistently bring in clients and grow the law firm.
Wow. So when it comes to trademark, how often should you understand the status of it, because it does expire
Mhm.
after so long? And also, what are the different entities when it comes to trademark, where people have to make sure that they are actually getting the proper branding trademark that identifies their brand and the different entities that it does offer?
Okay, I think I understand the second part of the question. And so and this is one of the reasons why I do my webinar, because oftentimes there are just misconceptions about trademarks, and I get to
Yes.
dispel all of that before they even get to me. Because by the time you get to a trademark attorney, you either have a trademark or you don't, and that's the sad part. And so I have one client who actually came to me for a trademark consultation before they launched. And we were able to rebrand her so that she would have more success when it came to applying for her trademark.
Okay.
Because had she applied, she would have been blocked and she would have had trademark infringement, potential lawsuit. So when it comes to again trademarks, you can have trademark rights in a mark without registration. But once you register, then you need to if you're going to DIY file, then you're responsible. If you have an attorney like myself file, then we're monitoring your application through that process. And so you want to stay on top of where it's moving through the stages, because they will email you to let you know that your trademark has been assigned, and the examining attorney will email you to let you know what additional information they need or what steps you need to take. So, when it comes to monitoring, you want to monitor it. There's different types of monitoring. So, I provide monitoring services for those who already have trademarks. But there's different types of monitoring. So, there's a difference between monitoring your application and monitoring your actual registered trademark. So with monitoring your application, you want to be checking, I'll say monthly, through
Okay.
that process. Because you want to, if something happens with your email and you're not getting emails, you want to make sure you didn't miss anything, because there's a time frame for responding. And then for once you get to registration, meaning you got through the whole process, your trademark has been registered, approved, woo, you got the piece of paper that you can put the R symbol. Now, your monitoring is a little bit different, because you want to be monitoring other marks that may infringe on your trademark rights. You want to be monitoring marks that are being applied for so that you can block their application. And so
Mm,
that timeline, that's a 30-day window that you'll have to oppose those type of applications once they are published. And this is why monitoring a service is important, because you building a business, you don't have time for that. Now, what you were asking for and what you were hinting at is, the part that your registration for trademarks expires with the USPTO. So between your fifth and sixth year after registration, you have to file paperwork to keep your trademark. And then between the first, ninth, and 10th year, you have to file paperwork again to say, I'm still using my trademark. Once you get past the first 10 years, now you only have to file every 10 years.
Okay.
So that's how you keep your trademark registered. So, for example, Nike, every 10 years, they would have to keep that trademark up to date and
Okay.
file the paperwork. So once you get past that, those first two filings within the first 10 years, then it's every 10 years that you have to renew your trademark.
Gotcha.
Okay,
You
I'm trying to remember your second question.
it's okay, it's okay. So, I know, when you have I think it's called T stamp, it's like, they have the codes of what relates to your trademark or the things that you do. It could be like marketing materials, um, journals, courses, different things like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about the classes, the classification, like what you can register in?
Yes, you have the
Oh,
different classifications, but isn't it multiple classifications that you could select that has
yes,
to do with your
yes.
brand? And I know those different things means, like, you can always upgrade it later or add
Mhm.
more to it as you grow your brand. Can you explain to people about those different things? Because you really don't hear that much that from
Okay,
talking about it.
okay. Um, so there's no like exclusive like trademark rights in the United States, even when you have a federal trademark registration in every industry. Like it's just no such thing. And this is how you can have Pandora for music and Pandora for jewelry, because the trademarks are based on one, making sure there's no confusion in the marketplace, but also, and here's how I teach it in my webinar, is I want you to think about a grocery store. We're going to the trademark grocery store. Now, I want you to, we all go to the grocery store at some point, unless you fancy and you got a delivery, hey, you. But we all go to the grocery store at some point. Now, if you go into a grocery store and you're not familiar with the store, but you know what you need to buy, where do you look? You look at the aisles to see, they'll tell you what's in that aisle, right? So
Mhm.
in the trademark grocery store, what are you going to use your mark for? So you might use your mark for your podcast. You may decide to use it for a course. You may decide to use it for a conference. You may decide to use it for t-shirts. Okay, now we know what you're using your mark for, because until you start using the mark on a product or for a service, you don't have trademark rights. You just have a brand. And so now that we know what you're going to be using it for, we can now look at the aisle and then say, okay, well, you're going to find t-shirts in this aisle. You're going to find the podcast in this aisle. You're going to find the conference in this aisle. Now that I have that, when it comes to trademarks, there are 45 aisles, 45 aisles, or what we call classes. So there are like 1 through 34 is for goods or products. And then 35 through 45 is for services. So again, when you go to the grocery store, we know, okay, milk is over there, produce is there, toilet paper is over there. Where's the seafood is back there. The same is true for your marks. And so when you talk about classifications, we know in the grocery store, if you are in the bread aisle, what aisle are you not in? You're not in the toilet paper aisle. You're not in the bacon aisle. Why? Because they're in separate aisles. The same is true for your trademark. So when you register, if you want protection in, let's say, aisle 41 for entertainment and education services, which would be for a podcast, coaching, it would be for, let's say you're doing conferences, that's the aisle it falls in. Then you apply for that aisle. But that also means that if you expand to clothing, you don't have the protection. That trademark was not applied for in that aisle.
Okay.
Or when I say out, I mean of that class. So then you have to identify what class. And so the class that you would, you would apply for clothing would be in aisle, I believe it's aisle 25. So this is how we identify, okay, where do we want to file for protection? Well, we look where is your product or service? Where does it fall in the classes or the aisles of where you need to go shop? And that's where you register. And so when when you're thinking about protection, you want to think about where do I want to be protected? And if budget, money is sometimes an issue for many of us when we're getting started, you may choose one aisle and then you can expand later on.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you for that. Because sometimes people they aren't aware of that, the different things, and um also when you do the different classes, do you have to do paperwork for that too and add it on to what you have already?
So it depends. So for example, there's many things to the trademark process, right?
Yes.
So this is, I've had people, I do a 2 hour webinar, like, can it be 90 minutes? No, because in teaching, I'm laying the foundation. And so first understand that when we talk about adding classes, we have to know, are you currently using it or are you not currently using it?
Got you.
So if you are currently using it for every owl that you want to, owl being class that you want to register for, then we can do one application and then we can add in the description for that owl. So you can do it all within one application, but you're just going to have to pay the fee to add
Pay the
on
fee.
the additional class. But if you are, let's say you have this one mark, but in one class or owl you're using it, but in the other you're not ready yet. So let's say, for example, that you're using it for coaching services, but your podcast you haven't launched yet, but you're ready to file. If you file that together, chances are your application might be held up. And so you can file it separately or you can file it together, but you might have to split it later on, just depending on strategy. So the process really depends on, again, are you using it? Are you not using it? And then thinking long-term strategy. How do you want to actually, how long do you want to wait for your application to get registered?
Okay. So as far as the importance of having your business trademark, because some people really don't trademark their business, and I believe it's because they're not aware of it and not knowledgeable enough for it. So say for instance, I launched Life Her podcast August 7th, 2025. And then down the line, I did not trademark it or anything. I already started branding and everything. So then December 1st, 2025, someone else launches Life Her podcast, the same name and everything. How do we predict the ownership of it of
Mhm.
two people having the same branded name? Does it goes with me having the name first or whoever claims the trademark name and started the process?
Great question. And so, if you want the rights in the US, because trademark law is based on jurisdiction. So the US law governs US. Let's say you wanted to expand to another country, you would have to understand that country's laws. And so in the United States, trademark rights are based on use, not first to file, use, which means that if you launch before that December person, you were establishing your trademark rights in Life Her before anyone else popped up. And we know, look, with all of the layoffs, things happening in this country, people most likely are going to try to copy other people because
Yeah.
it's the fastest way, right? Ooh, if I can piggyback off of what you did, and maybe people will think it's the same thing and come over. It ain't right, but people try to do it, right? And
Yeah.
so if you want to keep it tight, trademark is where it's at. So when you started first, you started developing your trademark rights. But here's the thing, because there was no registration, Because you didn't go the full length for protection, brand protection, you had what's called common law trademark rights, meaning that everywhere you use the trademark is where you have protection, but not in the entirety of the United States.
Got you.
Now, because you launched first, you have established priority rights. So you have priority, meaning that you can apply for a trademark, get your trademark approved, and then that person that came after you, you can send a cease and desist and say you have to rebrand.
Mm.
That's the importance of a trademark, is you can block other people. Now,
Mhm.
one of the things that I focus on within my law firm is also strategy to help you save money. Because let's say that the December person that copied Life Her podcast decides to apply first. You're not monitoring the trademark registration. You building, because let's be honest, we get focused on building. You're building, so you don't even know that someone else filed a trademark for Life Her podcast. Isn't
Mm.
that what happened with was it Hillman Top? That's what happened with Hillman Top. They launched and someone swooped in and started filing trademarks, and they had to end up rebranding to
Mm.
something very different to continue because they didn't want to fight the battle. And so many of us don't have the money to fight the battle.
Right.
And if you don't have the money to fight the battle, it's better for you to invest in the trademark first, especially if you're locked into the brand. If you ain't locked in, ain't no need, you just wasting money if you try to do a trademark. But what ends up happening is, let's say that December person decides to file a trademark for Life Her podcast. Y'all in the same aisle, meaning that if she gets the trademark approved because you didn't know about it to oppose their application, then
Mm.
and you go back and you try to apply for a trademark after her, now that application is going to block your application,
Mm.
and you're going to have to spend money to then fight that person to get your trademark rights.
So, what if you end up having a trademark, but your trademark expired and you didn't renew it, and then that person jump in and trademark it and try to do the processing before you actually try to do it again?
So it's similar. It's the same kind of story. It's similar, and
Okay.
so what happens is, the question is, are you still using the mark? Because if you're still
Mm.
using the mark, you still have trademark rights. You didn't lose your trademark rights. You just lose the
Okay.
trademark registration. And
Okay.
so here is where you have to understand: trademark rights are not created through trademark registration. That's not how we create trademark rights. You create trademark rights when you start using it the way that actually gives you rights under the law. And this is why you have a trademark before you ever get trademark registration. So if your trademark lapses and you're like, I'm in the process of, trying to get it back, because you're going to have to file again, you're still back in that scenario. If like that December person filed the trademark first, you're still right back in that situation again.
Mm. Wow. So tell me this, many entrepreneurs walk by faith but neglect the legal foundation. What's the connection between honoring God in business and having contracts and trademarks in place?
Um, I had someone come to me last year, and they was like, God sent me to you. And I said, okay, cool, 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 cool. And then she explained that God told her that he doesn't do things with faulty foundations.
Mm.
And she had multiple businesses that she had done in the past, and it just wasn't done correctly. And so many of us, we say, oh, we're walking by faith, and we're doing the parts we like, right? The creative parts, and maybe the stuff we don't necessarily like the bookkeeping. But that's the stuff we're comfortable with. And so many of us, we try to get along and by faith do our own contracts, by faith do our own trademarks, by faith, right? And look, I'm not discounting that the Holy Spirit can't tell you exactly how to do a trademark the right way, okay? Because if
Right,
God
right.
grants If God brands you, that's a trademark, baby. You gonna get that registration because
Uh-huh.
ain't look. God gave me armed and legally dangerous. He gave me the purpose police. He gave me one dangerous CEO, and that's how I'm like, oh, this is why the registrations have gone quickly through the process. So I'm not saying he can't do it, but if we're talking about honoring God and walking by faith, why would God not want you to operate in a spirit of excellence, just like Daniel did when he was in government, just like Joseph did when he was in jail, but also when he got elevated to be governor under Pharaoh? Why would he not want you to operate in kingdom excellence, just like Deborah did when she went to war with Barak? Why would he not want you to operate in excellence and honor what he's given you, just like Apostle Paul did, even when he was in jail writing? You are still responsible for the mandate. You're still responsible for doing things the right way, including the law. Apostle Paul had to go through the legal system. He had to prove his case. Laws are still important. And so when the Bible says submit to governing authorities, it includes your business, the law. The law does not change just because you want to ignore it. And so, just like biblical principles, ignorance of the law is no excuse. The same is true in the legal realm. Ignorance of trademarks are not an excuse. And so, this is why in Armed and Legally Dangerous, we talk about, oh, as faith people, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Do you not think he's not
Yes.
coming after your business? Do you not think he's not coming after you because you didn't understand trademark law? You didn't know that until you started using that brand, anybody could come in and steal it. So now God gave you the brand, but because you didn't understand the law, you ended up telling everybody on Facebook because you don't know how to hush. You don't know how to be quiet and silent. And now somebody who don't like you, somebody who got jealousy in their heart said, well, I'm gonna take your stuff. And guess what? If they beat you to use it, they got the trademark rights, not you.
That's true. That is so true. Especially the when you said like as far as people exposing it, a lot of times when people see that you exposing your shortcomings, it usually blocks your blessings and also exposes to the enemy that you have no idea who the enemy is, and your storm starts to get heavier.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just a storm. So like it's one thing to honor God by understanding contracts. Y'all stop getting these contracts off the internet and they ain't got the provisions
Yes.
that protect you. I got a contract template company and possibly it's for that reason because I've seen people of faith give me a contract and I'm like, what's this? What's this? And so when we talk about honoring God and we talk about our storms getting heavier, you honor God by knowledge. You honor God by applying. You honor God by getting the help that you need. And when you don't know the help, you go to the helper who will then direct you to the help you need, including the legal. This is why I teach, because if you can't afford the attorney, you can at least afford to learn how to do it yourself the right way. Now,
Mhm.
how the storm gets heavier is let's I'm just gonna put it out there. I had an opportunity to be a part of this women of faith putting together a bundle for
Okay.
other believers, and she sent me the contract, and at the top of the contract was her personal name
Mm.
and her business name. And so I said, look, usually I don't do this. And I really don't. If you send me a contract and you mess up, I'm not going to correct your contract. I'm just going to say,
Mhm.
well, you on the hook. And I told her, don't ever put your personal name at the top of a business contract again. Now, I didn't make any recommendations for the rest of her contract, okay? Let me just say this. If your contract is like 1 or 2 pages, it changes I don't protect you. So, how your storm gets heavier is, let's say somebody didn't have good intentions. Let's say, look,
Mm.
we know that Judas was used to portray Jesus. The enemy entered into his heart. The enemy can enter into anybody if they have an open door. They come in and they say, you know what, you ain't do what you said you're gonna do, so I ain't gonna pay you. I'm gonna write a breach of contract.
Mm.
Or they got the money, I'm gonna sue you to get everything back. Well, because you didn't understand contracts, now when we talk about that heavier storm, you got your person, they suing you in person. That's your that so everything in your bank account, your 401k is now at risk. But we know the
Mm.
enemy don't just hit you once. So you probably gonna have another storm somewhere else. And so all of these things can compound and make your storm heavier. But when you have the right legal protection in place, you can have peace of mind, because legal protection is not just having a contract. Legal protection is not just having a trademark. It's also understanding strategy. You got to understand strategy. And when you do, you can move a little bit differently.
Mm. You definitely can. Woo. You hit that right on the nail. So so you're right here in Akron. So which is such a, like, as far as like a full circle moment for everything that you're doing, what would you love to see happen in our local community for just small business owners when it comes to legal access and support?
So I'm just about to get started in the
Okay.
local community. But one of the things I would like to see is more integration of like events, networking, being able to come together, especially for those of faith. I see it in Cleveland, but I haven't seen it here yet.
Not here, not
Yeah,
not.
I've seen it in Cleveland, but not here. And that's what I would like to see, especially because armed and legally dangerous is more education, training, coaching others how to actually do it themselves the right way and how to think about it.
Yes.
Um, I would love to see more spaces or more places that are opening up those opportunities than just the I think it's like bounce score, the traditional places, but it's not,
Yes.
it doesn't allow for the opportunity for faith to come in and for you to really have those integration of not just, oh, here's what you could do on the legal side, but spiritual legal. Here's how you can pray. Here's how you can move spiritually to also build the legal protection for not just your business but your purpose. And so on that
Yes.
side, yes. But also, one of the things I've been wondering is about the economics and economic trajectory of those in Akron, because there are certain areas that is it's like what is going on here, but
Mhm.
also how do we uplift the community and get them to the next phase where
Yes.
it's not a struggle. It's
Yes.
not it's not looking impoverished. It's not looking like you done bootstrapped everything together. But again, that's on multiple levels that would have to be tackled.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I really do. So what's next for you? What's your next, like, moves, big moves that you plan on doing?
Oh, what's next? So for the law firm, what's next is to continue to roll out my trademark education. Um, and what that looks like is an upcoming book that I have, and hopefully next year to roll out, at least within the next year or two, to roll out a DIY trademark registration course for those who actually want to uh, file their own trademarks,
Okay.
because again, you can do that in safety. So that's for the law firm. I'm looking to do that as well as partner with others who need trademark services and need a trusted trademark counsel. When it comes to armed and legally dangerous, uh, definitely um, the next phase is to continue to grow the membership in the community, and so that comes with, again, visibility. We just rebranded this year, and
Okay.
so I've been training. This will be our third year of training, but this year is different because the Lord has had me focus on skills. So it's not just information. It's like, no, I'm taking you through how to think about things. things and how to actually apply it. And, it's been real interesting. And so to grow that, to grow the community and, you know, just different things I have coming up. Like I had a brand protection boot camp that I was doing called Called and Covered to take you through brand protection from how do you do a trademark search? How do you actually find what are the skills that you need in understanding to actually do a search of the USPTO to see, can I use that name before you apply or before you
Mm.
launch? Even going as far as how do you draft your own contracts? Because brand protection is not just trademarks and copyrights, it's also contracts. So
Yes.
that protection boot camp was, centered on that, but also spiritual as well, because oftentimes we don't think about brand protection as us, our reputation, who we connect with. We connect with the wrong person, right? You should be, who
Mhm.
sent you? Did God send you or did the enemy send you? Who sent you? And then what are your motives and intentions? Because you have to think about when you're associated with someone and there is a scandal with them, by association, in criminal law we say guilty by association,
Yes,
that can impact your brand as well. And we see this with
definitely.
ministers being exposed and like, well, hold on, who else was hanging out with them and they were connected? And so in that regard, brand protection is much bigger than just the legal. It
It
also
is.
includes spiritual. It also includes business protection as well. How do you put those pieces in place realistically to have overall brand protection? And so that's what it looks like. And so in the membership, we have monthly trainings that we do, and so this we just finished our brand protection series, but we're going into more this year. And one of those trainings that we'll be doing is called Prepare for War. So how you
Mm.
were saying, like it gets heavy, we have a training, and these are exclusive to only members. The Prepare for War is what happens when hell breaks loose.
Mm.
How do you prepare on all fronts to make sure that you are prepared for the breach of contract? You're prepared for the brand theft. How do we make sure that you're prepared on all fronts? So that's a training that I'll be doing inside the membership. And then, of course, I have general trainings that I'll be doing. One in which is coming up soon that I'm preparing for called Just in Case Workshop. And so
Okay.
we see a lot of the disasters taking place, floods, um, many things that are taking place in the world. And for the just in case workshop, is, well, what happens if something happens to you? How do you
Mm.
make sure that your business continues to run smoothly? Your family is protected, just in case you become incapacitated. Right, an accident can happen at any time.
Yeah.
Well, who can make sure your business keeps running? Who can make sure the bills gets paid? Who can, let's say the IRS needs, you were supposed to file your tax return before the extension runs out. Well, who can speak to the IRS? Well, guess what? If you did not have what you need in place, your business, what you had, is stuck in limbo. And so just in case workshop is a emergency preparation plan of what you need to consider to have in place just in case something happens to you, that they know where to go get, let's say, many of us have this login where they do the security code. Well, what
Yeah.
email are you using? Right, what's the backup
Yes.
email? How do people know how to get into your systems? Who's your just in case person? And so the just in case workshop is going to work through and break that out so that you can have a plan in place and also build it so that, again, if something happens to you, just in case, your business is not going to fall apart. Your
Mm.
life is not going to fall apart. Your family and whoever your just in case person is will be able to step in and keep things going so that when you return, you're not returning to a disaster, but you're returning to something that has kept going on. So that's next for me in
Mm.
those arenas.
Wow. So how can people get in contact with you and utilize your services?
Absolutely. And so This is a thing when you have multiple businesses and multiple brands, like, shoot, shoot, shoot. Um, but if you are looking for trademark services, you can go to trademarkwithlegacy.com. Trademarkwithlegacy.com. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and social media at Legacy Legal CF, as well as YouTube. So I do educational videos on YouTube. If you're looking to learn about contracts, you need contract templates for your business, you can check out 180contracts.com. And you can also follow us online and check out our videos. We have lunch and learns where I do education, and I'm educating. I think our first one we did in January. Within 10 minutes, someone was saying, "Pass the collection plate," because it was that good.
Ooh,
So for that, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at the 180 contracts with the S on the end. And then Armed and Legally Dangerous is for Kingdom CEO. So if that's you and you're like, you know what? The law is overwhelming. Sometimes I get confused. I don't know what's what. There's conflicting information. I really want to be coached. I want to be trained. I want to be one dangerous CEO. Then you can join our community, subscribe to our email list, check out our armory, because Armed and Legally Dangerous has a mandate to cultivate and produce weaponized Kingdom CEOs so that you're actually armed and legally dangerous. Because some of y'all you armed, but you as dangerous as a toothpick. You can't do nothing. So for that to get equipped, you can go to onedangerousceo.com. Check it out. Check out our armory, get connected, and you can follow us at One Dangerous CEO on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Again, educational content is on YouTube. It's easier for me to get on here and educate and break it down. But if you really want to be trained and coached, you got to come inside one of our live trainings.
nice. Well, thank you so much, Shayla. You were so informative, straight to the point. You are armed and dangerous.
Legally dangerous, legally dangerous. Because
Yes,
think about the bulletins when people, there was some like escaped convicts that came out of, I forgot where they were, right? They say this person is armed and dangerous because you're scary to the public. We got to beware
yes,
of you. But for those of us who have concealed carry, right? Legally, you are legally able to carry. You got a permit
yes,
to carry. So you want to be legally dangerous. You don't want the police being ready to stop you. You want to
yes.
be. I have a permit to carry, so I'm armed and legally dangerous. Why? Because I
Mhm.
understand the law. So that means when you come for me, baby, I got the right, and I'm
Ooh,
positioned and prepared
you better
to
say it.
not just build but protect. I can defend my house and I can defend what God has given me because I'm armed and legally dangerous.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate you.
No problem. It's been a joy and a pleasure.
Yes. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to Life Her Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and listen to Life Her Podcast on all major platforms.